Welcome back to Corner, everyone. I am the DM as always, and today, yes, I know you love his beautiful face. I love his beautiful face. It's Jazzarus, of course, right down here, so you can see that I'm not lying. Um, and I just kind of honestly assumed that Vessel of Hatred was going to have a decent reception, but apparently, it's been pretty lukewarm. So let's talk about it, and let's talk about why it's been lukewarm.
Hey guys, today I wanna talk about the lukewarm reception that Diablo 4 The Vessel of Hatred, the new expansion for the game, is getting. This is not about my personal opinion, but about the perception that the whole of the community is having about the expansion. This is my character, the Necromancer. This is Robert Plant here. This is the singer for Led Zeppelin. So there are things that you can take a look at, like the graph for the player base, and you can also see comments in the Diablo 4 Reddit about how things are going and how people are feeling. First, let's take a look at the graph. This graph is for like the last 3 months, I don't know, but no more, because these are 2 seasons, so like 6 months. This was for season 4 and this is for season 5, and this is the last days is the launch for the expansion. So you can see the expected behavior in an ARPG. Every time you release a new patch, the player base goes up, then it goes down. You release a new season, it goes up, it goes down. You release an expansion, it goes up. This is the expected behavior. By the way, don't take a look at these numbers. These numbers don't matter, because this is Steam and the vast majority of people play on Battle.net. But this graphic is still worth to look at, because this is like a sample size of the player base. You can
It's a good baseline, is what he's trying to say.
expect Battle.net to have bigger numbers but the same graph, or almost the
It'll
same
follow a
graph.
similar
So
trajectory,
what we are
basically.
looking at
Yeah.
here is that for the expansion we have only a slightly bigger, I don't know, peak than for a season patch. I would expect this spike to be a lot higher, because this is an expansion. And this is one of the things that I am perceiving in the community, that the expansion is not as hype as it should be. It is like, yes, it is hype. It is cool for people that are involved already in Diablo 4, already are players, constant players of Diablo 4 like me. But for a lot of the people and the big IP that Diablo is, even culturally, I don't feel like there is a hype around the expansion. There are a lot of people that aren't even trying the expansion, that they are kept playing whatever they were playing. And this graph right here shows it with data. Like, you don't have to get a feel for it. This is data, brother. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah, so I want to pause right here. As he says, and as a very wise wrestler once said, numbers don't lie, right? So this is the Steam DB. I have it set to max to show the all time, right? So the all time high was actually pretty recently. So an all-time peak, which was 7 hours ago, was 47,688 players. So this is where this is the expansion, right? This is release. This is the first free week, and this is the second free week. I want to talk about this, and then we'll come over here and we'll look at some more hard numbers. So as we can see, when it first released on Steam, there wasn't much hype around. There were only about 12,000 players playing it. But then it kind of shot up to about 28,000, and it began to dip down. New season comes out, kind of goes up. Then, still a lot of issues. Players on Steam don't really jump back into games super fast, right? So it just kind of keeps going down and down and down and down and down and down and down. And then there's another spike. This is another start of a patch. This is a pretty big one. We'll get to that in a moment. And we can see, oh, look, it spikes up again. This is because of this was, I believe, the third season, which a lot of people say is when Diablo 4 started to really get good, because a lot of the bugs and everything that should have been ironed out before release were finally taken care of, right? But then we see something interesting, something very interesting, a sharp decline in players before a moderate spike back up. Not as high as right here, but the majority of those players that left came back. This was when a free week came in, but unlike here, where the moment a free week hit, there was a large jump in players, over here, we see the exact opposite, where there's a sharp decline in players, right? Before the expansion, and then there's a sharp uptick in players. Now, I want to talk about something over here, right? So, June 2023, this is when the game released. It released with 6.7 million players, right? With a daily average that month of about 820,000. Pretty good numbers. Those are really good numbers, right? But what we'll see here is over the next 2 months, over the course of the first season, the numbers begin to drop and drop and drop. And then the season 2 comes out. And the majority of the players that left during the second month come back. But a lot of the big issues weren't addressed. So what do we see? Another massive drop in players. 1.3 million, 600,000, 51,000, right? And then the next season comes out. Let's see. This is first season. This is the second season. This is the third season, right? December. So third season, we see at first a small drop in numbers, but then a large jump back up. And then at the end of the season, another massive spike downwards in it, right? And then we see the next season come out. We see a pretty sizable uptick, about 600,000, about half of the players that had left during February came back, right? But then we see over the next 4 months a sharp decline in players. This is due largely because of what happened with Diablo. Now, in Season 3, there was a large uptick in players. A lot of people criticized me for using icy veins in an earlier video. Y'all are idiots. They're the only reason why I found this, by the way. Wowhead did not help. No other website helped. But the large reason why, anyways, is because of a lot of the balancing and whatnot that they did, a lot of things that they added, etc., 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 right? And so that's why we saw that large spike in players. Now, I say all that to bring up Path of Exile. If we look at max, the all-time peak was 3 months ago at 230,000, right? And if we look at the last 3 months, right, this was when Settlers of Calgar released, we see that it was sitting at 13,000, but the moment the expansion, because that's what Settlers of Calgar was, an expansion, the moment that it dropped, we see this explosion of players that set an all-time high for the number of players that came in. And yes, as we expect, as the season goes on, as the months pass, we see that number drop back down to where it's currently sitting at about 18,000, which is above where it was before the expansion. This is what he's talking about with what spike you expect to see when there's an expansion that comes out.
I don't know how Blizzard feels about this because I would think that they want to sell a lot of the expansion and this spike should be
right. So
a lot higher.
Right. So I say all that to say that the amount of players that are on Steam, this is why this is a good baseline. This expansion did not bring in any new players. All this expansion did was bring already existing players back into the game.
Even if in Battle.net this spike touches this line right here, it is still not that much of a difference. So I believe this graph is still accurate. And when you come to the subreddit and read the comments that people are giving, so just like the same as everything, right? Some people are happy, some people are unhappy, but the majority of the reviews are things that are like me, like, yes, the game improved, but it is not a big deal. This person said it's a letdown for me. Some people say it is cool, but the majority of the criticism is in the campaign. People say that the campaign felt like a budget Disney movie or a recent WoW expansion. The campaign is complete trash. I am very disappointed. So yes, there is a lot of complaining about the campaign. I also think it is because the majority of people right now, it is like the second day playing the expansion, the third day playing the expansion, so people are playing the campaign or getting out of the campaign, completing the campaign. That is the portion of the game that people are experiencing right now. So they are focused on giving reviews for that. So in the next week, we will
Which, by the way, I'll let him
have
finish.
more
Then I'll.
reviews, more opinions about the end game activities when people actually get there. But yes, for now, people.
So I'm gonna pause him right here real quick. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. The thing is, right. If you want the goal that Blizzard was, this is what Blizzard was more than likely thinking, right? I don't have any evidence for this or anything like that, right? This is just pure speculation, so take it with a grain of salt. But the idea is, with an expansion, is you want to get the casual players to return and then convert at least some of those casual players into hardcore players. You want some of those casual players to continue playing the game after they've experienced the story, right? Because that's what casual players are there for. They are there for the story. They aren't there for like the in-game activities, to like in Diablo 3, for example, the greater rifts and the grind and whatnot, right? Like that's not what the casual player base is for. They're there for just the story, not the grind. So the idea with an expansion is you want to get those casual players to come back. You want to convert some of those casual players into hardcore players. Again, we can see this with Path of Exile, where before the expansion, right, and even leading up to the expansion, it was down to like only 6,500 players, right? Like that's not a lot for a live service game, right? But you can see leading up to the expansion, people are starting to get back into it. People are starting to play it. It's, about 13,000 people, and now we can see, you know, the average player count now is sitting at about 17,000. There's 15,500 currently online right now as I'm recording this, which is at that time on that day, right? 2:30 on the 9th. So we can see that there is a uptick in the average number of players from before the expansion. This is what they want, is they want to convert some of those casual players into more hardcore long-term players.
When people actually get there. But yes, for now, people are complaining about the campaign. I haven't completed it because I haven't had much time, but I am well into it, and I have to be honest, I have to agree with them. The campaign in the base game was far better. Right now, I feel like we have to work too much and not for a lot of reward, because in the first game you also worked a lot, but it felt more meaningful. This time around, it doesn't feel as meaningful, and you don't feel like the main character. The main character feels like Neyrelle, the girl with the soul stone for Mephisto, and she was stupid in the first game, so we don't care that much about her. So it feels weird, in my opinion. This is for the story. The actual gameplay of Diablo 4, we already know that the game feels good to play, so not much on talking about that, right? So yes, super disappointed in the campaign. I think when comparing it to Reaper of Souls in D3, it is a lot worse, in my opinion. So
Yes.
campaign.
And the thing you have to remember about Reaper of Souls in Diablo 3, the campaign for Reaper of Souls, I don't know how Vessels of Hatred is doing, mind you. Like, I've not played it. I don't even own Diablo 4. So in Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls added like a whole bunch of new areas, a whole bunch of new zones. It made overhauls to systems. It had additional systems added. It added an entirely brand new class, right? And so that's what people are going to be comparing it to Reaper of Souls, because Reaper of Souls was like the first, and I think one of like the only expansions for Diablo 3, unfortunately. And Vessels of Hatred is also currently the only expansion and the first expansion for Diablo 4. And so this is the only comparison that people have for Vessels of Hatred. And so this is what people are going to compare it to, right? And Reaper of Souls, when you went through it, it felt like an extension of the already existing campaign rather than just a few extra quest lines tacked on to the base campaign, right? It took place after the campaign. It took into account all of the base campaign and then went forward with the knowledge that all of these events happened. And so, how is this going to be not only different from the base game, but how is it going to add to the experience of the base game, right? So that's what people are going to compare it to. And that's what Blizzard and anyone who wants to try and do any kind of critique about Vessels of Hatred has to take into consideration. You have to, otherwise, you're doing a disservice to not just the review and the people that are looking at what you're saying about it, but you're doing a disservice to yourself. And you're basically lying to yourself if you're not doing that.
It's absolute trash. Lots of positives to say, really, but the biggest standout for me are the Night Madonios. We have here a positive review. Night Madonios are actually completely revamped. This is true. So this is something different because people are hyper focused on the campaign. This person went out of their way and they did a Night Madonion and they are saying that they are good. There are people complaining about bugs.
Which, by the way, I'm gonna rewind because I don't want to interrupt him with his next thought. But so having to go out of your way, I'm going to use massive air quotes here, to experience like a nightmare dungeon or whatnot, it's totally fine. For anyone who wants to try and say that, like, oh, I shouldn't have to go, shut the fuck up. It's totally fine to have to, right? These are optional difficulties, much higher difficulty, I presume, anyways, than your standard dungeons and whatnot. However, what I want to say is that it's good that when someone does go out of the way to go and try and experience one of these things, that they leave that thing with a positive outlook on it. If people, as an example, if this person, Max Z242, if he went out of his way to go to this nightmare dungeon and it felt the same or worse than before, that would be a negative notch for the expansion as a whole, right? As an entire, irregardless of whatever they do with the campaign or the Spiritborn class, irregardless of everything else in the campaign, okay? If they came out of the Nightmare Dungeon feeling like it was the same or worse than before the expansion, it would taint the entire expansion and it would taint his view of the entire expansion because it came out with the expansion, if that makes sense, right? So it's good that he came out with a positive outlook on the Nightmare Dungeons.
They did a Nightmare Dungeon and they are saying that they are good. There are people complaining about bugs also. I keep getting kicked out.
Which, that's bad, getting kicked out. Real quick, I want to scroll back up just slightly. This guy goes on, and this is just a me thing. This is just things that I like to focus on personally, right? So this guy says that the layouts are done in a way where it doesn't matter which way you go, all objectives are gone, and now all you have to do is find the final guy, but you are motivated by masterwork materials that actually kill stuff on the way, or to actually kill stuff on the way. So this is a very important thing. If your dungeon is focused around complete these objectives, kill the final boss, move on with your life, and nothing else in the rest of the dungeon matters, then everything else that is in the dungeon will feel like nothing but, why the fuck is this here? Remove it. All it's doing is annoying me and slowing me down, which is bad because there are players out there, myself included, that if I feel that way about something, I am going to actively refuse to do this thing because it's annoying, it's frustrating, it's not difficult, and it's just there to inflate game time and make everything take longer. It's bad. So it's good that they have done this, that they have removed these pointless things and incentivize you to kill the shit that's in there on your way to the final guy, to the final boss. This is good.
And yes, there are bugs. For example, I am using the Mercenary Sabo that supposedly gives you where the herbs are around, but when I mount up, the herbs disappear. So I have to go walking around to be able to see the herbs.
This is bad.
Stupid. So yes, there are a lot of bugs. So what I'm feeling is a lukewarm reception.
This completely unrelated to the video, but I just find the title of this really funny. Holy shit!
It has the positives, it has the downsides. Not a big deal. So a lot of people are like, I spent $40 for this. Maybe I should have waited for it to be cheaper. It is not a big deal. I didn't have to play right now because there is not big hype in the community. Like I have to be part of this, so it doesn't matter. The campaign sucks. We have to wait for them to improve a lot of the bugs. It is the best version of Diablo 4 so far, but is that saying much? So that is the feeling that I am getting from the community.
Yeah. So one thing you have to consider is price points, right? So the expansion is $40, which is about $20 less than a full price AAA game, right? Most AA games are around $40, and anything under that is typically between like $5 to like $30, right? Um, and so for an expansion, so for me, when I buy a new game, I want to get at a minimum an amount of enjoyment. I want to play the game for an amount of time equal to the price point, right? So if I pay $60 for a game, I am expecting at a minimum to have 60 hours worth of game time that I have enjoyed playing, right? Um, Let me pull up a game as an example. So Elden Ring, right? I have 230 hours in Elden Ring. I paid $60 for this game, right? I bought it when it had come out. Um, Now, this means I have played this for almost like 4, 5 times as long as it costs. So I've gotten an enormous amount of value out of this. Dragon Ball Z Universe 2, I have 100 hours in, right? Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, I have less than 60 hours of time in this game. But I still feel like I have gotten my money's worth out of this game for what I paid for it, right? I paid $60 for it, but I still feel like I got my money's worth because I thoroughly enjoy Dragon Ball Z, right? I was very excited for this game. I think it did exceptionally well, right? And so, just one more Baldur's Gate 3. When this game actually released, I already had, like, when it was in early act, before the official release, I already had something like 60 hours in this game. When it released, I played another 70 hours just over the weekend, right? So that's sort of how I look at this. Now, when it comes to expansions, I never expect that same level of quality. Never. When an expansion comes out, I expect to get at most half of what they are charging. So for this, for example, for Diablo 4's expansion, they're charging $40. I'm expecting to enjoy at least 20 more hours of gameplay at a minimum. Or at a maximum, rather, right? And at a minimum, I'm expecting at least 10 hours of gameplay, which is a little over a day, right? If you're playing like 4 to 5 hours a day, right? Um, Now, if you're a psychopath like me, you're probably playing like 8 hours a day, but that's neither here nor there. But that's sort of what I'm expecting, right? And so, for Vessels of Hatred, do I think that it's fair to try and critique the storyline this early? Yes, absolutely. The reason why is because people are already getting to the point where they are probably, especially the people who are hardcore players, they're probably already completing the storyline, right? Already. And so I think it is 100% fair to critique the storyline. So for people to sit here and be like, this feels like just a quest line, that is bad because Reaper of Souls did not feel like just another quest line.
Me personally, I have had fun the time that I have been playing it, but again, I am still in the campaign and the campaign is disappointing. the fun that I have derived from it is because of the same that I always have fun in Diablo 4, which is the gameplay is good. You feel well casting your spells, and that is always true in Diablo 4.
So yeah, I'm just gonna pause here real quick because this is something I was gonna bring up. If he didn't, thankfully he did. Is he said that he is enjoying it so far? But the question is, why are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying the story? Are you enjoying the gameplay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so if the answer is I'm enjoying the gameplay, then that means that the expansion is not adding anything to the enjoyment, right? Which is bad. That is not something you want to hear from your players when you release an expansion for a game that itself was very, very hyped up when it was first announced.
So that is why they went like from a 4 to a 5 or from a 5 to a 6, right? It is still a mid game, not bad, but it is not awesome either. And I believe that people are feeling the same way. So if you are on the fence for buying the campaign, or you are already bought it, I don't know. Diablo 4 is not like it is going to change your life or anything. It is like it is the best it has been, but it is a mid game still. It didn't improve the game in an awesome standing way that you have to go buy this because this is awesome. It wasn't that. But I am not that
It's a
negative
wait for a
about it
sale
either.
expansion.
Look what this person says, and this is true. And I haven't completed it, but so far this is true. That didn't feel like a campaign. It felt like one quest line. Quest where the objective is to emote don't belong outside of a tutorial, and this is true. By the way, so far where I am at in the story, I feel like the campaign, which is not the campaign, is a quest line for the season 5, which was the one where you infiltrate the Triune for the mother, the Triune of the mother, the cult for Lilith. That was pretty cool. And so far it has been cooler than the main campaign for the story for Vessel of Hatred, which is mind-blowing. Maybe some people didn't pay attention to that quest line in season 5, but to me it was awesome. And it is one of the reasons why season 5 is my favorite season so far. So far, even season 6, which is the Vessel of Hatred expansion, of course I haven't played the end game, so I can't say anything because everything will change when I actually play the raid, which is what I want to play. But so far, season 5 is still my favorite season. Of course, it is too early to call it for the season 6, but we'll see. But yes, guys, that was what I wanted to say today, that I am feeling like the community feel for the release of the expansion for Diablo 4 is very lukewarm. People are not that excited. Some people are disappointed. But also, people feel like it is not that bad. This is the best that Diablo 4 has been. It is a cool, fun game to play even more if you're a casual. So it went from bad to mid, or from mid to better. What do you guys think about it? Have you guys played the expansion? What are you feeling so far with the expansion? Did you like the campaign? You think it sucked? It is the best Diablo 4 has been, or it is worse? You don't care? Let me know everything in the comments below. I love reading comments. Also remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Help me out, my dude. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. God bless you. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.
Yeah. So, my ending thoughts for all of this. I'm just gonna come back and pause real quick. So, my disappointment is that I'm becoming transparent. I'm turning into a ghost. My disappointment is that the game itself, or the expansion itself, the campaign, does not add to the enjoyment of the game itself. Instead of adding to the enjoyment, all it's doing is effectively, from what it sounds like, extending the storyline to meet the new season. Right? It's not. So, Reaper of Souls, the storyline was to expand upon the story and lore of Diablo 3, whereas Vessel of Hatred, the season 5 story seemed to just kind of lead into the season 5 season. right? And what I'm predicting is more than likely what this is doing, what the story of Vessel of Hatred is doing, is just going to lead into the season 6 game loop. Um, Now, is this a bad thing? No, not inherently. Uh, you kind of want a sort of a foundation, if you will, for why you are doing whatever it is you're doing. Now, this is not something that is required, right? The vast majority of players do not give a fuck at all about that kind of thing. I am one of those players more times than not. Like it's cool if there is one, if there is a low reason, but if there's not a low reason, like fucking whatever, right? Um, so yeah, but it's when you tailor the story around just introducing the next season, and then you tie that story to the expansion which you are charging $40 for, there's a level of expectation that is impossible to meet. There's a level of expectation where if you are not performing at, or if you are not getting an amount of enjoyment out of the game that you would expect to get, then a lot of players are just going to drop the game. Now, again, obviously, this is uh, uh, Steam, right? But as we can see here, I would not be surprised if after maybe 2.5 weeks, we see numbers as low as pre-expansion. Because this expansion did not get more people to purchase the game. All it did was get players who stopped playing the game to come back to the game. And I don't think that is going to be enough to hold it, especially when Path of Exile 2 is on the horizon, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Path of Exile 2 is entering early access on November 14th, which is just about a month away at this point. Little over a month. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, like about 5.5 weeks away, and then early access will open up for Path of Exile 2. So, like this is a very pivotal moment for Diablo 4. If Diablo 4 wants to grab new players, and especially away from Path of Exile, and get them to come back to Diablo 4, or to give Diablo 4 a chance, to give Vessel of Hatred a chance, the story has to pull them in. The gameplay alone, everyone already knows what the gameplay for Diablo 4 is like. It's been out for long enough. There are fucking hundreds, if not thousands, of videos talking about the gameplay of Diablo 4. So the gameplay itself is not going to draw people in. It's already drawn in everyone who's going to be drawn in by just the gameplay. The story is where they have to make their selling point. Unfortunately, it seems like the story is just too weak. The Path of Exile 2, which I mean, it's gonna be basically a brand new game, is going to be following up on the lore and the story of Settlers of Kalgur. We're gonna be starting Path of Exile 2 in Kalgur, in that settlement. And I'm pretty sure the character we make is gonna be like the like effectively the carryover from Path of Exile, right? It's gonna be the character, whatever character you want to have used for building up your settlement. That's basically like the character that you're going to be playing in the expand in Path of Exile 2. I believe I might be wrong on that. I'm not entirely 100% sure, so please don't quote me on that. I will probably look like an idiot. And we all know if you are on the internet, you don't want to look like that, obviously, right? Haha, I'm joking. I don't care. Um, but yeah, so Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred has gotten off, from what I can tell, to a pretty mediocre, honestly, start. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't hit the expectation that Blizzard probably had for it. I don't imagine they had like an exceedingly high expectation, but I guarantee you, they were not looking for like 200,000 players and that's it to come back. I'm sure they were probably looking for at least 1 million players, or like probably 600,000 at worst, and they got maybe a third of that, right? So yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts. Those are my opinions. That's all I have for this video. Thank you all for coming to my channel, or my channel. Thank you all for coming to my corner. Uh, I've been the DM as always. If you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe. If you didn't like the video, hit dislike, leave a comment letting me know why. And I will see you all next time.